Hey everyone, happy Sunday. Just sitting here. I've been very busy at work. There's been a lot going on at work, and I've been having to work extra and stuff because we're losing people and stuff like that. But just been a lot going on. The cold weather, you know, snow, ice. So I'm making a video today on preparedness, okay? And I have a list here of items that I think you need to have to be prepared. And in the last week, I've seen a lot of people get put out onto the street because they didn't have the money to pay. So most of them were not prepared. Some of them had an automobile, but they had nowhere to go. So it's starting to increase the number of people I've seen being put out on the street. And the other thing I've noticed in my area is there's like three businesses that I frequent, and I've noticed every one of them has lowered their wages by $2 to $3, like within the last 2 weeks. So everything's still expensive, but wages are going down. But the price of goods is not going down. It's increasing. So I say now is the time to prepare because there's something going on. There's a reason they're doing this. Because it doesn't make any sense for employers to expect people to work for less when everything's so high. I think it's a bankrupting of the American people myself, but I have no way to prove that to you. But let's get to this list, okay? And I'm going to go, this list is in no random order. You might want to get a pen and a piece of paper. I had to write down a piece of paper so I could remember everything. And just pause the video, get you a pen and a piece of paper, and write it down. So I'm just going to go down my list. It's in no specific order. It's kind of random, but you can, you'll have a list, something to help you. So the first thing on my list is 2 sleeping bags. You need one warm weather that's good to 50 degrees and one cold weather that's good to at least 0 degrees. If you can find a -10 bag, that would be great. There is a military sleep system that comes with 2 bags, a bivy sack, and it's 2 sleeping bags, a bivy sack, and then a bag to keep it all in. They're about $400 to $500. If you can get your hands on one of them, from all I've seen on YouTube, they're like really good for what they're made for. But you can take a cold weather bag and stuff a warm weather bag in it, because that's how the military sleep system works. There's a cold weather bag and an intermediate bag, and they put one inside the other, and then they put it in the bivy sack. But $400 to $500 for me would be a lot of money to spend on one item. So if you go to your local Walmart, get your 50-degree bag, get your 0-degree bag. Now you've got 2 sleeping bags per person. Okay, that way you're good for cold weather and warm weather. Because once you become homeless, there's no telling how long you might be homeless. Okay, so that's the first thing you want is 2 sleeping bags per person. One down to 50 degrees, one down to at least 0, -10 would be better. The next thing you need is a tent. And your tent should be no bigger than what's required. Okay, and I'm recommending Walmart for a lot of these supplies because for a few $100 you can put all this together and have it ready. Now, at my local Walmart, there's an Ozark Trail tent that's a single person tent. When it's set up, it's 7 foot long and 4 feet wide. And to me, it's about, what is that thing, like $40? That would be fine. That it has a tub floor, I believe, to keep water out. That would be ideal. It's just a small single person tent. Now, if there's 2 of you, you might want to get a 2-man tent, maybe even a 3-man tent. You just don't want something huge that's really hard to set up and very difficult to set up. You want something that you can quickly deploy, and try to find colors that are like brown, green, black, nothing like yellow, orange, red. You want it to blend into the environment if you were to have to sleep outside, like duck into a wood line and set it up for the night. So you want it to kind of blend in. So look for those, colors that you find in nature. I mean, there is orange and red in nature, but you're going to stand out like a sore thumb, especially in the cold time of year when there's no leaves on the trees. The next thing you want to get is a small plastic tote, and you want to put food in it, like rice, ramens, cans of pintos, cans of tuna. Make sure there's a can opener in there. You want food that is going to last a while. And I don't recommend normally eating a bunch of canned food, but we're talking about an emergency situation. But you want to have some crackers in there. Whatever you think you need. They say canned yams is one of the best survival foods there is, but I don't like canned yams. But they say they're nutritionally dense, is what they say, the canned yam. So if you like yams, grab some cans of those. Fill your box with, enough food to last you probably, a couple weeks of maybe even only eating once a day. But eating once a day is better than not eating at all. You're going to need a small stove. Any type of small backpacking stove, even a twig stove, where like what I showed on a couple videos back, that runs off little sticks. But the problem with that is if you're trying to hide in the woods and you're lighting a wood fire, it's going to give off smoke. Plus you run the risk of setting the woods on fire and then maybe getting fined or arrested for having a fire if you're in an area where you're not supposed to have a fire. So if you can afford a little propane stove or just some kind of little backpacking stove with some kind of fuel, grab you some extra fuel cylinders, have two to three of them, so you don't run out. Put that in there, with your food maybe. But you need some type of little stove to cook on. And you're also going to go along with that stove. You might want to have a separate tote with your stove and some, dishes and cookware in there. And you don't have to have a set of 4. If you're a single person, have a plate, a bowl, a cup, a pot to cook in, maybe a little frying pan to fry in. Keep it light, keep it simple. Make sure you have silverware. Make sure you have a cutting board in case you have to, cut some stuff up. I mean, you just have to base it on what you can afford and what you think you'll need. Okay? And now a lot of people are probably thinking, why are you saying totes? Why are you recommending we get totes to put our food and our cookware in? Because I'm also recommending that you go and get like a collapsible dolly like they would sell. I know at my local Menards they sell one. It's made by Milwaukee, and it collapses down, and the little lip where you set your boxes on it folds over. But having a little collapsible dolly and stacking your stuff on there in a few totes, you know what I'm saying? And just being able to pull that dolly behind you is a lot easier than trying to put a backpack on your back and carry 40, 50, 60 pounds on your back. If you think I'm wrong, grab the best backpack you have, put 40 pounds in it. 40 pounds is not hard to accomplish. You get, 8 5-pound bags of rice and put them in there and go walk about 10, 15 miles with it on your back. It will wear you out. So if you can get a little collapsible dolly or a wagon, a little 4-wheeled wagon, anything that has wheels that you can just, hold with your hand and pull behind you is going to be a lot easier than having something on your back. All right. And make sure you get some, if you're going to use a dolly, make sure you get some cordage. Don't use bungees. Get some cordage and learn how to tie knots so you can lash those totes onto the dolly so they're not always sliding around and falling off on you. Bungee cords are okay, but the problem with bungee cords is they tend to, in the weather, in the heat, in the cold, they tend to weather and break. Cordage is much better. Learn knots. That's important. The next thing you want to have is a good rain suit. I have a Frog Tog rain suit. I recommend Frog Tog. You can usually get them. Now I paid $100 for the camo one I have, but I wouldn't give it up for nothing. That thing is great. Every time I've been out in rain with it, I have never gotten wet underneath. I don't sweat in it, so a rain suit is important. You also want a tarp, at least a 6x8 tarp, because when you set up your tent, you're going to want to put a space out in front of that covered, have a tarp out in front of it. And you might want to get two different tarps. You might want to have a silver one to reflect heat in the summer, and like a brown, green, or black one for the winter. You know what I'm saying? Um, the silver reflective tarps are really good at, you put them about a foot above your camping area during the day, and they will reflect that heat away from you, and keep that heat off your tent. Like, you want to extend it over your tent and then have a little area in front of your tent where you can sit and you can cook and you're not getting baked by that sun. So make sure you get, two tarps. If you can only afford one, then get one. Get the silver reflective tarp, because it's really hard in the summer to sit out there for long periods of time in that heat. It'll just dehydrate you and kill you. If you don't want to use a dolly, then you're going to have to get a good backpack. Get a walking stick. A walking stick is good to help yourself along, and it's also good to keep people, other homeless people away from you, and to keep animals away from you. It gives you an extension. You can push it out there and keep things at bay. Like, if you're walking along and a vicious fucking dog just starts running up on you, at least you have something to defend yourself with. And most police are not going to mess with you if you're just walking down the road with a stick, a walking stick, So get one of those. You can even make one. You don't have to buy one. Make sure you have weather appropriate clothing. That means if it's wintertime, you should be carrying with you, appropriate winter clothing, long underwear, long heavy pants, snow pants, heavy jacket, gloves, hat. And like right now, it's weird because it's been like below 20 degrees. I mean, it's been bitter cold here in Indiana. And now starting tomorrow, it's going to be 40 and on up. And that's where the next item on my list comes into play. A small storage unit. Okay? You're going to want to get the smallest storage unit you can afford and the cheapest storage unit you can afford, but make sure that the storage unit you're using is a safe place where your shit's not going to get stolen. And like right now in Indiana, I have a storage unit, and I gave up the one I had because they kept increasing the price. It was up over $200, so I got a different unit at the same place for $125, and I wasn't even in it 2 months, and they jacked it up $25 in 2 months to $150. I was like, son of a bitch. And they have this law here in Indiana where they can just increase it whenever they want. They can just throw it on you. And I would recommend that if you have a lot of shit, okay, you start selling it off. If you ain't used it in 6 months, you probably don't need it. Get rid of it. Take that money. Buy the shit you need to have on hand. Get a smaller unit, the smallest, and pay that unit for 6 months. Because once you pay, like if you go in there and they say, okay, this 5x10 unit is $50 a month, and you can give them $300 and pay 6 months. If they decide to increase the price, they have to wait till the end of that 6 months because you've already paid the price that they told you. They can't increase it on you. And that's an important thing to have, because if you're out on the street, if you have a storage unit, I'm not telling you to live in the storage unit. Don't do that, because then they're going to kick you out and you won't have a storage unit. You'll be out on the street with all your shit. But you can keep your supplies there. So keep your warm weather clothes there. You can keep cold weather clothes there. Pay attention to the weather. If you got a week coming up of extremely cold weather, then only have your extremely cold weather gear with you. Watch the temperatures as they fluctuate up and down, and have what you need with you. You can always walk over to your storage unit, unlock it, go in there, get the shit, change your shit out, and have what you need with you. It's also a place like, let's say you got a job interview. You don't want to show up to a job interview with a backpack or a dolly full of shit. You can go whip it in your storage unit, you know what I'm saying? And then go to your job interview. Also, make sure you get a gym membership. Planet Fitness, $10 a month for your local one, The $25 one is better because it allows you to use any Planet Fitness in your area, and that way, as you move throughout your area, you be able to stop anywhere and get a shower. Make sure you have a small bag with your toiletries in it. Get some bar soap, a toothbrush, you know, a small bottle of shampoo, whatever. But make sure you keep yourself clean. That's very, very important. You don't want to be looking dirty and stinking all the time, because then people are going to shy away from you. They're going to be like, oh, that's disgusting. Because the people that are still living a good life don't want to be around people like that. Make sure you get a sewing kit and a small sewing kit and a small first aid kit. That way you can keep your clothes and your gear in good repair, and you can, first aid kit, you know what that's for. Take care of yourself. You get a cut or an abrasion. Make sure you have good footwear. If your shoes are old, or your boots are old, or your boots aren't waterproof, either clean your boots up and waterproof them, or get out there and get some new ones. Make sure you have, at least one pair of good winter boots. Make sure you have a couple of pairs of footwear for summertime. If your shoes are 6 months old and there's no tread on them, get out there and get some new shoes. Okay, you want to have good shoes for your feet, because you might be doing a lot of walking. You should be working on your fitness, like I said in the not the last video, but the one before that. You want to have a good fitness level, because being homeless is no joke. You have to move around a lot sometimes. So make sure your fitness level is good. As far as transportation goes, if you're homeless and you don't have a job and you are having to pay for a car, it's going to make it a lot harder. So if you're going to lose your transportation, like if you lose your job, you lose your place to stay, and you don't have any money, I mean, if you got a car and you can hold on to it, at least that's something to move you about and to stay in. I prefer a bicycle myself, and a non-electric one, because an electric bike is just going to be harder to keep charged, because if you're homeless, you're not going to have anywhere to charge it most times. Make sure you keep your cell phone on so that you can stay in contact with friends and family, and you can try to, if you're going to look for employment, you're going to want a way for them to get a hold of you. Keep a small pad of paper and a pen with you, because you never know, you might need to jot something down. You want to get some candles, like a little candle lantern. Don't rely on flashlights, because then you have to buy batteries. Get like an Unco candle lantern, just a single. You can either get the tea light one or the one with the 9-hour. I like the single with the 9-hour candles. Get a couple boxes of 9-hour candles while you have the money and you have the chance, and get a light, a couple lighters, some waterproof matches. Be prepared, don't rely on something that uses batteries all the time. And it's like your cell phone. You're going to have to find a way to keep it charged. It's going to be a pain in the ass. If you're sitting there, you're homeless, and you're sitting there playing games on your phone all day, just wearing it out, you're really just kind of screwing yourself, because maybe there's not a lot of places that you can go and just charge your phone for free. I don't know. Make sure you have a small shovel. It doesn't have to be like the one on my bike. I'm talking about like a little hand trowel. Because let's face it, you're going to have to go to the bathroom at some point, and if you have to duck off into the woods, you don't want to just shit on the ground and leave it there. Dig a hole, do your business, put your toilet paper in there, and bury that. Don't be nasty like that. Because it's also leaving a trace that you were there. You know what I'm saying? And then they're going to be watching. Get a fishing license. If it comes right down to it, and you're going to have to fish to have something to eat because you're low on money or don't have any money, fishing without a license and getting caught is just going to put your ass in a bind even more. Fishing license is about $35-$40. So get a fishing license, get some line, get some hooks, whatever it is you think you need to fish. If you don't know how to fish, you better get on there and watch some videos, and you better figure it out. And you better get out there and practice doing it. Get also, for the summertime, you want a hat with a wide brim, something that can shade your neck and your face. You know what I'm saying? A ball cap only shades this part of your face. It leaves all of your skin exposed. So get a hat with a wide brim. You know, it doesn't have to be super wide like a lady's hat, but get a hat with a wide brim to protect your neck and your ears from getting all burned up in the sun. Okay, so that's the list that I made. And there's probably stuff that I forgot, but it's a good start. Okay? It's a very good start. And it's better than not having a list at all. It's better than not knowing what to do. Now, the other part of being homeless, and this is where most people mess up. Okay? And I have talked to my local police about this. When people become homeless, okay, the reason that I believe they set up homeless camps is because your whole life, when from the time you're born, you live in some type of dwelling, some type of box. Maybe you grew up in an apartment, maybe your parents owned a home, you know, but you grew up in one spot usually, you know. This is where we lived, in this city, in this apartment for years and years. My parents lived in this house, in this town for years and years. So that's what you know. I have a box of some type, a structure of some type, and this is where I live. So when people become homeless, they set up a tent somewhere, and they'll leave it up, and they'll start bringing shit there, more and more shit, just like they do into their house, bringing more and more shit all the time, shit they don't need, but they think they might need it. So pretty soon they've got all this shit around their home, and then another person sees them that's homeless. They come over there, set up a tent, then another and another, and pretty soon you got a tent city, and then somebody reports it to the city. And that's where you failed. Because the city's going to come, they're going to tell you got to go because you don't own the land, and they're going to tear that shit down. Don't do that. That's why you want as small a tent as possible. When nighttime comes, during the day, walk around, look at the wooded areas near you. Along most railroad tracks, there's always a wooded area. I don't like being near railroad tracks at night to try to sleep because there's always trains moving and it's loud as fuck. But there is wooded areas somewhere by where you live. If there ain't, then you're going to have to look for some other area. What you want is an area that you could walk along at night and quickly duck into, where you're going to be covered by something where people just can't see you from the street. You're going to want to set up your tent, throw your sleeping bag in there, you know, your sleeping mat. That's another thing I forgot to mention. You might want some kind of mat to lay under your sleeping bag. That's pretty important to keep the ground from sucking all the heat out of your body. So you're going to want to, you know, duck in there, set up your stuff, lay down, be quiet, go to sleep. Don't be, you know, over there making a lot of noise. Don't have a bunch of people with you. Don't be partying it up and shit. Lay down, go to sleep in the morning, have an alarm set. You know, what time is sunrise? If sunrise is at 8, get your ass up at 7, pack that shit up, you know what I'm saying, and move out. The next night, sleep somewhere else. The night after that, sleep somewhere else. Have, you know, 3 to 7 spots where you can move about and duck in and just get some sleep so you're not exhausted every day, you know. And don't set up a freaking tent city. Don't do it, because that's when you lose everything. The cops come. Let's say you're gone. You went to a job interview, and the cops come that day, and they say, okay, everybody's leaving. Everybody's out of here right now, and no one grabs your stuff for you. And then they bring the trucks and, you know, the cleanup crew, and they just grab your shit and throw it away. Well, now you got nothing. Now you're screwed. They do not like it when you set up tent cities. So don't do that. Remember, you are now a nomadic person. I don't really like the word homeless. I know I use it a lot in this video, but that's because that's just the general term. I like the term nomadic person. You are now a nomadic person, which means you have to get up and you have to move. So every day you're gonna you know, duck in somewhere out of the public eye, set up your shit. You know, when you want to eat, go to a public park if they have them in your area where they have the little grills, you know, for everybody to use. You can make food at the public park and no one's going to mess with you. Set up your stove, cook your food, do that well before dark, you know, and then head out and find you a spot to sleep for that night and go to sleep. And make sure that, you know, wherever you're ducking in to sleep, if there's a no trespassing sign, don't go in there because you're going to end up getting arrested and you're going to go to jail. Now, if there's a homeless shelter, I don't recommend them. We have one here, and I've heard horror stories about it. People getting beat up, you know, bed bugs, just all kinds of crap. So I would avoid that. I never went to a homeless shelter, but I had a vehicle to live in. But the hardest thing about having a vehicle to live in is finding a place to park it where you're not getting fucked with. And I don't have any real good advice for that, because the only place I found where I was at where I didn't get fucked with was either in a friend's driveway or at the campground I found eventually and started staying at, you know, by the week, you know, permanent. Um, so as far as like good advice about where to park, you're just going to have to watch other videos on YouTube with people that are more experienced with that. Because I had a real hard time with that where I was living in Tennessee at the time, because it seemed like every time I parked within you know, an hour or two, the cops were there knocking on my window telling me I had to leave, you know, until I found that campground. And I'm gonna say, if you live in a real rural area, I'm gonna say anywhere that's not in town in your car, like out in the middle of nowhere, would probably be better, because there's less chance of the cops, someone reporting you to the police. I don't know. You'll have to watch other videos. The people who are good at that stealth camping in their vehicle shit. I don't know. I don't have any great advice for that. But this video is getting really long. It's nearly half an hour, and I apologize for that. Um, that's all I really have for today. We all get some gear together. Be prepared, because you don't never know what's coming. So just get your gear together. Be prepared, and I'll see you again in the next video.